Welcome to the Mystic Fool's Journey podcast. I'm Anna, and this is Ruth.
Howdy.
And this is an occult history podcast. Today, we're taking a deep dive into starseeds. So let's dive in.
Let's do it up. First off, the name Starseeds is like the ultimate thing for me. I love the name.
When I first heard it, I was just like, that sounds fun. Like, it sounds, I don't know, it just sounds like magical. Like, in a, like, such a fun way. Just a cool way.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, the general concept of this whole thing is like something I can definitely get behind. And you'll see my love for it in certain ways bleed through this. And you'll find my hatred for it also bleed through in this podcast.
Yes. Yeah, we all know.
So today we are talking about starseeds. And the concept of starseeds is relatively new. It only came into popularity in the 70s and 80s during a time when like a lot of other new age ideas started to gain speed as well. Basically, a starseed is someone who believes that they came from another planet or star system to help Earth spiritually evolve. And they often feel different from others and have unique abilities like heightened intuition or empathy. And as Anna and I found out, if you have anxiety, then it's probably because you're a starseed.
Yeah, it is weirdly convenient how many of my ADHD symptoms align with the description of a starseed. Also autism and a lot of other mental illnesses tend to align with it. I got that ADHD dog in me, and
hell yeah.
But like it's so much cooler to say like I'm from the Pleiades than to be like, hey, I'm highly sensitive and I have a dopamine deficiency.
It's way cooler.
I'd rather say I'm a starseed, man. I get it.
I'm with you there. And out of all of the topics we've covered in our time, this is one that I like so wish was true. I just feel like it's like the pinnacle of like all the things I am interested in into one like idea. And it absolutely would just be so much fun if we as a society could all just collectively adopt the lore that we are all aliens from different star systems who have been reincarnated on Earth. Like, that is something I could get behind. It would be so much fun.
Yeah, it would definitely make things more interesting. I like your take on it in the idea that like, what if we're all like literally every human is, because that's way more inclusive. I would like us to evolve to that state because I think that could actually improve upon the starseeds,
right?
In a good way, where you're like, oh, it's inclusive. We're all from different cosmic entities. It also would like it gives everybody kind of a fun scapegoat when we like mess up where other people suck,
right?
For better or for worse, it's kind of like saying it's what we do with zodiac signs already, where you're like, oh, I'm such a Pisces. I'm just so dreamy. It's just because I'm a Pisces, like that kind of thing. It's that. But yeah, your soul at a soul level.
Yeah, it's exactly what it's like. Great comparison. And so before we get into the history of it all, I do want to highlight that this is very much rooted in white supremacy.
Boo.
And if anyone is even vaguely familiar with any topic, occult or like esoteric related, you know that there's always been like a faction of the participants that like take these sort of topics into the far right viewpoint of things. And starseeds is absolutely no different. So while I might say things like starseeds are so fun, it's like a more of a tongue-in-cheek way. People come up with like crazy ideas and convince other people of crazy ideas, and we are here to find out the how and why of that, because that's what's fascinating to talk about.
Definitely. Yeah, at this point, I'm literally begging anyone who's practicing occult or alternative spiritual practices to do something radical, like, wow, this is going to be so crazy, guys, and shift the paradigm and restructure your practices to eliminate racism and sexism and all the isms, ableism, all of it. Because like, when you get down to it, if you really want to like shift the world into like enlightenment or like having a big awakening, you can't like keep doing all this weird shitty human stuff.
Right?
Like we've already seen what discrimination gets us. Like we've got plenty of history books about it. So like it doesn't matter what newfangled language or fancy terms people are using to disguise it. It still never has a good outcome. So, you know, let's just stop. Like, I think we can make this fun if we all just agree to, like, evolve past the discrimination side of things.
Yeah, and just to say, like, if you are a person and a listener that claims to be a starseed, we're not judging you, we're judging the history. So if you want to write in and, like, give us your personal point of view of, like, how you interact with this whole thing, like, let us know. We're not judging you, we're judging the history of it all.
Yeah, we would love to hear it. It's just important to know, like, where your belief system came from, because those isms can sneak in really creepy and unseen ways when you like wrap it in fun magic language. And
Exactly.
you might actually still be being a little racist at times.
Yes.
Okay, now let's dive in.
Okay, let's dive in. So, how the heck did this start? Let's head back to 1900 France and find out. Way back then, this psychology professor, Theodore Flournoy, or maybe Flournoy? Flournoy.
Flanor.
He's French.
Flanoy. Yeah.
Flournoy.
Who knows?
He released a book called From India to Mars, and in it he breaks down the sessions he had with a medium named Helene Smith, and she was getting all these spiritual messages, not just hearing them, but also seeing some stuff and feeling raps on the table, all thanks to her spirit guide and protector, Leopold.
Oh, that's such a fun name. I want a spirit
know.
guide with like a cool name like that.
I agree, I'm with you there. And so it turns out Smith was claiming to have lived a bunch of different past lives, like being Samandini, the daughter of an Arab sheik, and even Marie Antoinette. But it doesn't stop there. She said she had contact with folks living on Mars and could speak their language. During her seances, she'd write it all down and sketch out what she saw on the Martian landscape.
So, the part where I have to be a little bit of a Debbie Downer. I mean, it sounds cool. It's great. This is all important to the history of it. So Flanoy, we're gonna have a rough one. Sorry,
It's okay.
Sorry, Flobo.
We can call him Teddy.
All right, Teddy. Yeah, Theodore's probably better. So Teddy, his whole shtick, he aimed to be an extremely detached in his observations because he was a psychologist. So every time he like met with Smith, and he always had this like really methodical way of like recording all of the information and checking things. Like he was trying to be as detached as possible and not get like wrapped up in it, because he wanted to record her seances from that psychology perspective. So when Smith started supposedly speaking in Martian and doing the automatic writing, so we actually have like pictures of her quote unquote Martian automatic writing. Yeah, Teddy started to analyze it, and he found it was just really a modified version of French, which Smith spoke. So like he was
Funny
like,
how that happens.
funny
how the Martians also speak a version of French.
So interesting. Yeah, like he was like, oh, this is just French, but you just kind of like switched a couple of letters around. And so apparently once he started finding like the rationalizations for Smith's stories, he wasn't super welcome in her house anymore.
Yes.
Which is understandable for Smith. I get it. But what else is going on at this time? So we have this book that's released, and
then we also, in the science world during the same time, an Italian astronomer claimed to have seen water channels on Mars. And that kind of sparked a whole thing where people thought that maybe there are, civilizations on Mars and that sort of thing. I'm sure Helene was very influenced by that discovery as well. And then in the occult world, our friends in the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn started documenting their practices around astral travel.
Woo!
And not only that, but our boy Aleister Crowley claimed that you could harness energies from the cosmic world into baby making, creating what he called a moonchild.
Oh, that's fun. I like morbidly want to know what those rituals are, but also I'm like, maybe I don't want to read that.
I know, exactly. And also, I just want to know if anybody was successful in the moonchild. I don't know.
Right, yeah.
And the last ingredient to toss into this time period's soup is the rise of sci-fi novels. H.G. Wells was cooking up a lot of fun stories about superhuman species that have come to save Earth. So this all leads to a perfect cultural environment for Madame Helena Blavatsky to start introducing theosophy to the masses. And we have a whole darn episode about her if you want to learn more. But the general consensus is she wasn't that great of a person, but nevertheless did have contributions to the occult. And many more unfortunate than fortunate. And one of the most unfortunate was her own spin on evolution, which she claims that a select few humans called the Masters have either come to Earth or are on different planets to help guide the spiritual evolution of humans.
Yes. In the process of learning about both this and Blavatsky, I learned a new phrase because of her. It's called spiritual racism.
Oh, sure.
Which it's like more of a loose colloquial phrase. It's not like an official phrase used in like psychology or sociology. But it's basically racism that's motivated or justified by religion or spirituality, and it's usually used when a spiritual practice teaches that some races are lower on the spiritualness scale. Like it's like,
Right.
oh, you're not as divine as this race.
Yeah.
So, for example, Blavatsky tended to favor Indian culture and Hinduism, so she placed them like pretty high up on her spiritually ascended scale. Like she placed them higher up than Anglo-Saxons. So like,
Oh, wow.
yeah, so when we're looking at it, like she had some contempt for white people,
Uh-huh.
but she still thought that white people were higher than other races, but like Indian culture was like one of the pinnacles of spiritually ascended.
That's
But
interesting.
yeah, there's obviously other races that she straight up said didn't have a divine spark. So it's just,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
bad.
I mean,
Bad news.
divine spark, no bueno, man.
Uh-uh.
And so she claims that a big part of this whole dealio is the idea of root races, which is just as bad as it sounds. But for our real estate investing listeners out there, apparently there is a new super race emerging in Baja California. So snatch up those lots while they are still cheap.
Oh yeah. So according to one of the Theosophical Society's members, that next root race that's gonna pop up in Baja California is supposed to come around the 28th century. So, planning a few centuries ahead. Just be careful, because apparently this next step is going to involve a lot of eugenics and breeding under the guidance of the masters of ancient wisdom.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
It's a big yikes for me there. I don't really want to be there.
Sometimes I get worried about the sentences that we're saying.
I know. You're like, wow, anybody could clip this stuff. And
Yes.
yeah, that's the danger. And now we have AI, which could just like, at this point, one podcast, you can reproduce anything in anyone's voice.
It's true. So, as we move into the 1950s with the creation of space programs, we start to see alien encounters come onto the scene. Most relevant encounter to our discussions of Starseeds is that of George I should have said these words out loud before we started filming.
Sometimes I genuinely go on and I go onto like Google pronunciation and try and listen. And I'm like, but I don't know this guy. Adamskis?
Yeah, Adamskis. George Adamskis.
Yeah, why not?
Adamski reported having an encounter with a UFO in the California desert. He alleged that he met a Venusian named Orthon, who communicated with him telepathically and took him on a tour of the solar system aboard a spacecraft. He actually had like multiple encounters and wrote a couple of books on both of them. And this is relevant to us because Adamski was also a member of the Californian Theosophical Society, and originally Blavatsky had claimed that the masters were of Indian origin, but Adamski's claimed to have met one of the masters on the spacecraft, making them alien. And this is the moment in time when the tides of the Theosophical masters turn towards the cosmic.
Honestly, it's probably better for Hinduism and Indian culture if the Theosophists and New Age movement would just focus on something else.
Truly.
I really think Blavatsky already did a real number on how the West came to understand and like pick apart Indian culture.
Right.
She obviously wasn't the only one doing this at the time. There were a lot of different movements that this happened with, but she was a solid contributor. And while the damage is done, I feel like at least if we could shift to cosmic origins, like maybe the planets and stars won't suffer from appropriation, right? Like hopefully that's not a
I mean, hopefully.
like I hope they don't. I hope a Venusian doesn't come down and be like, you guys suck. Like,
Right.
you did it again. You still humans.
And if you're thinking fun, I love a good alien encounter story, and it's also fun to learn about the evolution of occult history at the same time. Well, I hate to burst your bubble, but this also gets fascist pretty quickly.
God damn it! Like
I
every
know.
time, every time.
It's just so disappointing. I won't lay it all out, but if you follow this rabbit hole down, your jaw will definitely drop. And here we are having a fun time talking about aliens and magic and how maybe we're all extraterrestrial creatures. This conversation could be so much fun, and we can make up literally whatever we want. But instead, we start introducing, like, swastikas and eugenics, and that's just so lame and also very rude.
So rude. Yeah, I mean, I think all I have to say is that, the Nazis really took to this whole root races thing, and that explains most of it. Like,
Yeah.
I think we can assume where this goes. Yeah, it's really disappointing because humans, we are wildly creative. Like, we come up with all these super cool novels and movies and stories, but for some reason we can never seem to fathom a world where we don't like hate each other in order to feel important, like in order to make ourselves feel powerful and important. Like,
Right?
we can't get over that hump. We're still working on it. So, like, just gonna say it right now. If you don't have pattern recognition, then you shouldn't get to be a starseed. I'm going to start laying out some new ground rules.
I like it. I like it.
You need that in order to break the cycles that they keep saying we're going to break, right?
Right.
So, like, add that to the list of qualifications alongside, like, strong sense of justice, which does appear in some lists for starseed qualifications. Like, you can't come at me and say you're ascended or awakened while still advocating for and believing that other living beings are less than you, when history has proven time and again that is discrimination and destruction of Earth is just going to lead to more suffering. Like, you're not doing your job as a starseed if you're buying into these portions of these beliefs.
Truly.
So don't come at me with that. Like, we just can't do it.
We just can't.
I think we can make Starseeds fun again.
Right?
Or just make it fun for the first time, because clearly it didn't start that way.
Yes, exactly. Make it fun for the first time.
Let's make something fun for the first time. Okay, so far we've had a medium that supposedly traveled to Mars, and then the developing practice of astral travel alongside a thriving sci-fi literary scene leading to UFOlogy, which is a whole other thing that we can't touch on just yet. And then that collided with Theosophy. So now we're in the 70s?
Yeah, we're in the 70s. And there's
gosh.
a lot of different cultural elements that we could talk about here, but we'll try to keep it siloed. A lot of, like, there's even, I don't know if you're familiar with the guy Timothy Leary. Do you know who that is?
I am. I did learn about him in one of my psych classes, and, like, there's a band I listened to that had a whole song titled after him. But yeah, he experimented with a lot of drugs. LSD.
Yeah, goddaddy of LSD. He created it at Harvard and all that stuff. But he even is involved in the Starseed narrative. So you'll see on a lot of Starseed questionnaires, like, are you into mushrooms and tripping? Yeah. And that kind of is a nod to the work that Timothy Leary did.
100%.
But we won't talk about him today. Except we just did.
Except for now. And now we're done.
Yes. And so now that we've got kind of proper context to how we got here, it's time to finally start talking about all things Starseed. Woo! So here's the scoop. Brad Steiger, who was like a sci-fi occulty author, is kind of the brain behind this concept. You know, he was all about the unknown, and he had this thing for extraterrestrial life. Well, in 1976, he had a book called The Gods of Aquarius, and he tossed out this idea that some folks might actually come from other dimensions. And he thought that some folks, especially those into New Age stuff, might actually be starseeds from some other planet. He even came up with a questionnaire to figure out if you fit the bill. The questions included, like, do you ever feel like your folks aren't your real parents? Or maybe you feel super sensitive to light and emotions. Oh, and apparently sinus problems could be a sign too.
Apparently. Yeah, it sounds like basically everyone is a starseed. Like,
if you think you're a starseed, then you are a starseed.
That's basically what I've gathered. Like, most of these quizzes and questionnaires are like, are you lonely or sick and feel like life on Earth is really hard? And it's like, which most people are going to say yes to. There's very few people who don't think life is hard in some way.
Yeah.
And, like, I get it. It's comforting to have, like, some kind of reason to justify all the garbage we've been through. So I get it. It's cool. So at this point, like, we're all starseeds because life is hard.
If you subscribe to this podcast, then you are definitely a starseed.
100%.
Okay, so, and then apparently there are also different ranks to this whole thing, too.
Oh, no.
Like, you've got starseeds, which Brad Steiger was. And then you have star maidens, which was what Brad Steiger's wife was. So
is it just, are you female? Is that the difference?
I think so. I don't really know. I'm not sure. But then lastly, you have star helpers, which is like a lower ranking starseed.
Okay.
Yeah. And so this whole thing took off and people all over started paying money to experts to help them trace back their like extraterrestrial genealogical origins to one of the countless different kinds of alien races from different star systems, including like Pleiadian, Lyrian, Sirian, Cassiopean.
Cassiopean.
Cassiopean. Jeez Louise, we're gonna fail at this section.
It's a lot.
Acturian, Lemurian.
Acturian.
Acturian, here we go.
Acturian.
Lemurian, Gray, Orion, Reptilian, or Hybrid. Which I just want to point out how ironic it is that there's a hybrid option when this whole thing started with and will supposedly end with race supremacy.
Right? That's what I'm saying. I feel like hybrid should be the once again, I don't want to say pinnacle because that just also seems racist. Like, but like maybe hybrid should be like, hey, this is when we've all become like one, when we've all like understand that we are in this together. But yeah, it is funny that there's a hybrid option. I'm wondering if you know, Lyrians think that hybrids are lower on the chain. Like if we still got that, like haven't talked to anybody, but it seems like hybrid would be a no-go since everyone wants to be siloed.
Yeah, I think it is attached to a lot of the like history between the three races.
Oh, interesting.
Because I think like I'm gonna be wrong on this, but I think the Cassiopeans and the Pleiadians had a war at some point. And then,
we didn't even get into like the lore. Like this has, when we say that the Starseeds have evolved, like the lore and the spiritual beliefs have evolved so quickly over what, I don't know, 70 years. Like it's insane how much it has evolved. Like there are some people who genuinely already think and believe in this backstory that like there's, I think like the Minnetonkaans, like supposedly their planet is gone, so they feel lost. Like there is a whole, like someone could write a whole novel series. Like it could be the next Game of Thrones, but in the stars based on the lore of this. Like some of them were in wars together. Some of them, their planet is completely lost. Another one, like reptilians are bad, by the way. Like don't ever believe in reptilians. Let's just go ahead and say that. Because it's never
for Hillary Clinton. She's the only reptilian.
Except for, reptilians, if you get down the rabbit hole where people start believing in reptilians, you have definitely reached the fascist side of things because it's never good. It's always associated with specific races, and it's rooted in racism for sure.
Right.
But yeah, this whole thing has evolved in a wild way. So you're going to find a lot of different, if you're interested in it, you're going to find a lot of different versions of it that exist today because it depends on what you believe and what you found. And because of the internet now, we can all evolve our spiritual practices at a much faster rate than people could when we, didn't have ways to communicate with each other, like through Reddit and TikTok and email. I do also think it's hilarious that people throughout the ages don't like being stereotyped, and yet we are constantly looking for ways to stereotype ourselves.
Yeah.
So, like, it's totally cool if you want to stereotype yourself by your Hogwarts house or your zodiac sign. Like, and now we've got like Starseeds. You're like, here's another way to stereotype yourself. Like, it's like everyone's like, don't label me, but I kind of love labels. It's this weird duality of like, don't label me, but also I kind of need labels to know who I am. It's funny to me. It's a little absurd.
Why do we do that? It is so funny.
I assume we're all trying to find our identities or something, and this is like a way to do it. Or you're just trying to find a group of people. Like it's supposed to be like an easier way to find your friends type thing,
Right, that makes sense. And just as we said, the lore behind each race is just as intricate as you'd think. Think like Star Trek, Lord of the Rings levels here. Each race has incredibly complicated history, including wars, natural disasters, personality quirks, etc. And so from here, we could talk about why people are into this or why it's so popular these days. But I think most of our listeners could intuit from the default level of skepticism we approach this podcast with what our answers would be. We'd probably come to the conclusion that it's still popular because of some end of the spectrum between mental health issues and capitalism.
Surprise!
So, surprise, nothing new here. So instead, let's talk about all the different alien races and how to find out which star system you might come from.
Yeah, for sure. I love that summary, Ruth. It's pretty obvious that our current social system and situation makes most of us want to not be here.
Right.
I think we can boil it down to that. And we agreed in the beginning that if there wasn't so many of the isms involved in the origin of starseed spirituality, and how it encourages people to see themselves as better than others, then this could have been fun. And like, once again, I think there's if you think you're really a starseed, my personal challenge to you is to make it fun again and make it inclusive.
Right. Yes, there we go. And so there are various classifications or types of starseeds, and each associated with different extraterrestrial origins or characteristics. Here are some commonly mentioned types. Sirian starseeds. These individuals are believed to have originated from the Sirius star system, and they're often described as having a deep connection to water, intuition, and healing abilities. Sirian starseeds are said to be empathetic and compassionate with a strong sense of purpose.
Pleiadian starseeds, they are believed to have originated from the Pleiades star cluster, named after the Pleiades sisters in Greek mythology, if I remember correctly, because there's 7 of them.
Fun.
They are often described as being creative, sensitive, and spiritually aware. Pleiadian starseeds are said to have a strong connection to nature and a desire to bring harmony and balance to the world.
Fun. So then we have Arcturian starseeds. Arcturian starseeds are said to come from the Arcturus star system, and they're often described as being highly intelligent, analytical, and spiritually advanced. Arcturian starseeds are believed to possess advanced healing abilities and a deep understanding of universal truths.
Next up, we have Orion starseeds, and they are believed to originate from the Orion constellation. They're often described as being strong-willed, independent, and capable of overcoming challenges. Orion starseeds are said to have a warrior-like energy and desire to protect and defend others.
That's fun.
I dig that.
Okay, and then we have the Andromedan starseeds. Andromedan starseeds are said to come from the Andromeda galaxy. Andromeda galaxy. Jeez Louise. Yeah. And they're often described as being futuristic, visionary, and innovative. Andromedan starseeds are believed to possess a strong sense of justice and a desire to create positive change in the world.
And last but not least, but obviously there's more than what we've listed here. These are the main ones that we've found. Lyran starseeds. Lyran starseeds are believed to have originated from the Lyra constellation, and they're often described as being brave, adventurous, and fiercely independent. Lyran starseeds are said to have a deep connection to ancient wisdom and a desire to explore new frontiers.
And the Lyran is interesting because they are depicted as a version of feline.
Oh yeah, I've been seeing that. Apparently, like, it evolved in a way where it's just kind of like, oh, do you like highly identify with felines and cats? I'm not sure how that got started.
I know. It's because of apparently the constellation is like depicted in art in Egypt. And like the gods and goddesses are depicted as cats in some form.
Oh, interesting. Okay, well, yeah. I mean, like, cats had a pretty big role in, like, Egypt. So, I guess I'll buy it.
Yeah, right? I know. It's funny how much of it is, like, from Earth's lore as well.
Yes. Yeah, you're like, clearly we're... yeah, well, you know, I can... Listen, I don't like that I can jump through the hoops that people probably did to get there, but I can see how it's like, well, if you believed that a lot of ancient races were actually seeded by aliens, then of course ancient Egyptians, being one of those races, is going to like put their alien beliefs to stone. And so now we're like, well, clearly since they worship cats, then that must mean that anyone who like associates with Egypt and is from this constellation loves cats.
It makes you think like all those girls in elementary school and middle school that hissed a lot at everybody. You think they're all just Lyran starseeds?
I don't know. I might have done that once or twice. So
and like the horse girls, what would they be? You know?
Yeah, maybe honestly, we should go back to middle school stereotypes and kind of see where they map out to starseeds. Right,
exactly.
Because there are some. I feel like there's some universal behaviors that we could look to.
Yeah.
Before we knew. See, that's the other thing. It's like now that you know about all the star seeds, like you might be like, it's kind of like zodiac signs, or you might like start to gravitate towards the ones that you like or think are cool. And so we got to go back to a time before you knew, because that's when you couldn't like sway yourself one way or the other.
That's right, dude. dude, we are hacking the system.
We're figuring it out.
So these are just a few examples, and there are many other types of starseeds mentioned in various spiritual teachings and belief systems, but each type is associated with different characteristics, abilities, and purposes. But the overarching belief is that starseeds have incarnated on Earth to assist in its spiritual evolution and the awakening of humanity.
Yeah, and from what I've seen, the beliefs about starseeds, as we've said, they've evolved a lot in general, but they've kind of evolved away from the idea that we're like physical aliens. So this all kind of started out like, hey, an alien got it on with some humans, and now we've got a hybrid race on the Earth. But it's not as common that, like, unless you're into the UFOlogy side of things, it's not as common that that's the origin. Now it's more like, hey, your soul or your spirit lived in one of these areas of the cosmos, and then it traveled all the way to Earth to inhabit your human form as a baby type thing. It's like when you were born, your soul was traveling, and then like now you're here, but also all your memories were erased. So you have to kind of like remember through time and through your life about where you came from, so that way you can achieve whatever your starseed system wants you to achieve, I guess.
I'm gonna say this, less cool. I
Less
feel
cool?
like our niche in this market is like kind of what's
wanna
the
go alien vibe?
Calvinism versus the other guy? Oh, Wesleyism. Calvinism versus Wesleyism.
There
like
it is.
I feel like our niche in this is some version of like Calvinism versus Wesleyism, where it's like we have the new set of people that are, you know, thinking of this more in like out there terms of like baby cells, and it's the soul traveling.
Ooh, it's the
stuff.
soul.
But we could be more of the type of people that do believe that aliens have
came
actually
here.
physically bred with humans, and that's how we have starseeds. I think I would
Interesting.
prefer to like take that sort of take at this. Like,
Interesting.
I don't know.
I don't know, man. I think this might be our split. You might be the Calvin to my Wesley. I don't know.
Calvin to your Wesley? Okay.
Uh-oh. I don't actually know if that's the correct way to use that metaphor. One of us is Calvin and one of us is Wesley in this situation.
Hey, let's start building our communities, and we'll let the people decide.
And that, you know what, that brings us to another great ending question. Is it's time to share with the audience, because we both took questionnaires. Which starseed are you from? Which origin?
Okay, so I am an Andromedan starseed, and I'm from Andromeda, and I'm a quiet warrior on this planet. I'm here to serve a very, very specific purpose known only to myself.
Oh.
And I will not be sharing what that purpose is.
Do you know? Are you not sharing because you still don't know, or are you not sharing because you do know and it's super secret?
We'll let you decide. But apparently, I'm super adept at accessing like the Akashic records, which is something I have said on this podcast before. I would love to be the person that tells other people what they were in past lives.
I feel like you just want to be a cult leader. It sounds like you like to tell people what to do.
I do. I'd love it. I would love to tell people what to do. And especially, like, I love it when, like, my yoga teacher is like, I was an Egyptian in a past life. I love that shit. It's like, dude, if you think that's part of your lore, that's fun. And so I'm very happy with my starseed type. And I think that it resonates very highly with myself. And overall, I am excited to go forward through life with this information.
I'm super excited that over the course of this podcast, that I hope you slowly start dropping little lore hints, like
right.
You're just like, and when I was in this century, please do.
Okay, I'll do it. We'll make it a bit.
I'm, for anybody who wants to take sides, I'm a Pleiadian. Apparently, apparently I'm an old soul, some of the oldest out there. So I don't know, Ruth. I've got some years on you. Apparently, maybe some centuries even.
Whoa!
Who knows? Yeah. Apparently, as a Pleiadian, I'm highly knowledgeable about metaphysical concepts and have advanced healing abilities. So I am supposed to be a healer on this planet and bring about harmony. I am very sensitive, though. And gentle to nature. I was reading through some other things here. I was like, this all just sounds like my ADHD symptoms.
Yeah, literally.
I was like, wow, this is just ADHD coming in hot right now. So yeah, if you want to be a part of like the group that heals the world, you're a Pleiadian alongside me, obviously. And, you know, you just also have to remember to take care of yourself because you have to fill up your own cup first before filling up others. That's one of our big downsides, is that we tend to be people pleasers. But yeah. Oh, also, this is another fun little tidbit for anybody who's a Pleiadian. We also came here with a big purpose, you know, obviously heal the world, harmony, world peace,
chill,
super chill. But also, in essence, time doesn't exist and it's not linear the way that we think it is. So Pleiadians very likely came from the future.
Cool. That's fun. So
I traveled back in
time.
I'm
old
older
and wise and have not existed yet.
All of it. I understand all things at all times. Everything is one and nothing is everything.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. That's the sort of stuff that I'm here for on this podcast. I want to know that you are old and wise, but at the same time have not been born yet.
Yes, I'm super young and like susceptible to all the energies of the earth. Like, I hold all things within me. I am the cosmos and the cosmos is me.
And that is your new Instagram bio.
Yes, it's time. It's time to update everything. My LinkedIn, all of it.
So don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. If you're a fan of the podcast, we need you to do this so that we can find new fans and find our Starseed friends.
Yes.
Tell your friends. Follow us on all socials. Our handles are Sweet Death Inc. and Mystic Fool Tarot on all platforms. See you later.